Hi, everyone.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to TFT,
Tarot for today.
Divine
Divine Dabblings
Dabblings.
with,
Oberon.
and me, Banshee.
She's so proprietary about that.
It's nice to get our name out there in the beginning. Sometimes we haven't. Sometimes we forget ourselves. But anyway, welcome to the special presentation of our USA predictions for 2020. We've done a number of these already. We did a main reading in the beginning where we laid out cards, one card for a number of different issues, that the US might face in 2020. And then we decided that wasn't enough, and we needed to focus on each of those positions in that first reading in a little more detail and draw more cards for each. And that's what we're doing here tonight. We're continuing this we have two more to do, and this first one is on weather and climate in the US in the year 2020.
Now, those previous videos are on our playlist under USA Predictions on our YouTube channel. And at the beginning of the intro, we give a slight recap by mentioning what the positions were and what those cards were. So now we're going to move on to the weather climate illumination, as it were.
And the card that we drew initially for that position was the Ace of Pentacles reversed. And that's an interesting card to draw because what it told me was that, things are going to be turned upside down. I mean, as far as, climate and weather goes for the US in the year ahead. I also think I mentioned at the time that it was going to be something that could cost us money, that we were going to be spending a lot of resources, applying it towards issues related to weather and climate in 2020.
Well, if we were looking at it just from the climate point of view, the whole idea about working on climate issues as new projects, it sounded to me like maybe these things were stalled or not exactly getting off the ground in the most efficient manner, too. So it could relate to that. But now we're going to try to find a little bit more about that.
Yeah. What
what
we're
it
going to
means.
do is draw a card for each season. And, we're going to see where we end up at the end of 2020 there. It's going to be for spring, summer, so upcoming spring, summer, fall, and winter. And if things look really dicey, if it looks like we can pinpoint there's going to be a specific problem, we might draw a secondary card to see what those impacts are going to be.
Sounds like a plan.
All right. Let's see what we get. I've never done anything quite like this before, so it'll be interesting to, try to prognosticate the weather ahead for us.
Right, because this will be the easiest one to disprove.
Well, I don't know. Our Super Bowl one, too, was a risk.
Well, that was 50-50, so, you can take that exactly for what it was. We would either be right or wrong. This has a lot more nuance going for it, but could be easier to prove. Nope, the fall wasn't really like that. Nope, there wasn't enough rain in the spring. That kind of thing.
Well, we feel we need to challenge ourselves. We did this with Brexit, which we might be still doing one more Brexit reading on the trade deals, so stay tuned for that possibility.
So once again, in the main reading, we had the reversed Ace of Pentacles, or in this deck, which we're using as the proxy for that, the Ace of Coins. And I'm going to ask you to go ahead and pick those up.
Were you afraid he would attack you?
Well, mostly it's just the amount of room that he's actually let us have here.
I'm going to let you lay them there. And you've got the
So
camera
we're going to
there.
we're going to pull them for each season in turn or all together?
All together, let's just throw the 4 seasons out there, Mr. O.
Okay, so we have
Interesting.
we have the star. So we're starting with this season,
Yeah.
winter. The star.
No, we're going with spring. It's spring, summer, fall, winter.
Okay.
Sorry, I did say that.
Okay, and it's just one card.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I was wrong about that too. So this is spring, the star. This is summer, the king, the Knight of Cups. Reversed, I must add. Then we have the reversed 10 of coins. And that's for fall. And then for next winter, that takes us up to the Chariot upright.
Okay, so what do I see right now happening? I sense that a lot of the issues that we're going to have will have to do with maybe it will not be so bad actually this spring. There could be some issues with water. The star has a lot of water in it, but and also I'm thinking of the star like something coming from the sky is causing, the problems. So we might encounter some flooding, but the star is such a positive card that I'm almost sensing that it's indicating that everything is going to be okay. Another thing that I might throw out there that is not necessarily climate related, but could be, is that maybe, we're going to be more concerned about asteroids and things like that.
Well, I'm just wondering in general if it does speak to the idea that maybe some conditions change and that we see hope from that. That maybe some people figure out that there are some ways that things are getting better, or that there is some sign that there is going to be progress. So I'm wondering if that's what that actually means. The other part, too, could mean that as this is also for America a political season, this could be saying that there is just a lot of people talking to the situation about the climate or weather because it's that time of the season for that.
I'm really thinking, this might mean for some of us that more sun, sun is going to be out, the stars, there's going to be just a lot of, I think, pretty good weather. I'm hoping, I'm optimistic that the spring is looking very positive this year. I know we have a lot of places that have a lot of flooding. Do you think we need to draw another card for this one, Mr. O?
Probably not.
Okay, so let's move on to summer.
So summer, we have the Knight of Cups reverse.
And here's where I could see some problems, and specifically maybe with water. I do sense that there could be some flooding, some bad storms that could cause turbulence. This is what I'm seeing, and it's a night too, which is things, there's movement.
Comings and goings, movement. So
yeah,
yes, it's exactly true that I see that this is probably going to be a summer of more vociferous water activity, water spouting, flooding, storming, things like that. Maybe some tornadoes even, though that's more air. But
do we want to throw another card for that one and see what it's indicating?
What would the question be then?
Well, I'm not sure. Like maybe it will show us
damaging?
Where in the country that it might show. Maybe it'll show that it's damaging. Maybe it'll show that it will turn out okay. Let's draw a card and see.
Okay, well, which of those is it? Or is it all?
Throw the card and see.
Thank you for that. The Seven of Swords reversed.
Well,
so it sounds like that tornado comes back and leaves some of the property destroyed.
Well, this is, well, what I would say is this is definitely indicative of air, that there could be some wind damage. Or, I'm wondering, okay, it's summer. Could this be indicating a hurricane season might be a little rough? And in the early stages of hurricane season, which is like the July, August range?
Well, it could mean that too. It could also mean too that maybe this is also talking about the support that's going into these things, FEMA, whatever we want to call that, and that maybe with that Seven of Swords reversed indicates that some of this is going to be dubious about that.
I do sense turbulence.
Turbulence indeed.
And, air is involved and water is involved for certain. So that was interesting, I thought. And by the way, I have not complimented Mr. O on his weather-related wardrobe he's wearing here, as we are talking about weather.
Oh, don't I have a really bright orange umbrella too? No, I don't.
No, you don't. But I had a red one you could have used. Which could have matched our backdrops.
I thought about that, yeah.
Although, do I want you opening an umbrella in the house? You know what they say.
Let's move on to the fall.
Let's move on to the fall. So Earth. And it's reversed.
10 of coins reversed.
You know, money's going to be spent in the fall on some environmental issue or climate issue. It could be damage from storms in the summer. I also think it could be indicative of a problem in the fall related to the earth. And what would that be?
I don't know about
Oops.
that. You might as well just go ahead and tell me because I have a different idea altogether.
Well, I'm
about that.
thinking earthquakes.
Okay, and I'm actually thinking that maybe either because of this damage or something, this actually to me talks about homelessness.
Oh,
And that maybe there'll be displaced people because of storm and climate problems, weather and
well, and
climate
that could even be
problems.
fires, you know, when people are burned out. We've had so many problems in the last year with that. Although, with all the water I'm seeing, I'm not necessarily sensing that here. Now, I'm just going to ask, do we want to draw a card specifically to see what this could, if there is a specific problem in the fall that's attached to? Maybe we'll be able to say for sure it's summer and not fall. Yeah, no, I don't think
King of
so.
Swords reversed.
I mean, it could be wind again, but I'm sensing it must fit with this.
This does.
Hmm.
Yeah, I suppose that's true. Can you say anything more about that?
Well, I feel there may be some issues, you know, with legal matters or, you know, people trying to get compensation
Right, I
or
talked
help.
about resources being available. Maybe that
Yeah.
will be an ongoing problem for more than a season then.
You know, there's going to be a lot of hashing things out. You know, how, I don't know, you know, will enough resources and funding be dispersed to the places that need it? And will people have to fight for that?
Right, and we don't want to necessarily apply politics too much into that situation. But of course, as I mentioned at the beginning, this is a campaign year, and this could be talking about leadership in general too, and maybe not necessarily rising to the task adequately in the fall.
Well, and it could be about FEMA and their response.
Yes.
So, I mean, in a sense, I mean, that is political. So, you know, that, I mean, it's part of government and governance. And so, we'll recap this later, but I am thinking, looking at this reading right now, summer seems to be a hot spot for climate or weather related issues more so than the spring and the fall. The fall, we might be just taking the aftermath of what happened in the summer. That's what I'm seeing so far. Let's take a look at the winter.
So in the winter, we have this card, the Chariot, and it's upright, which would normally seem to be beneficent. And of course, the Chariot's energies usually apply towards indicating drive or ambition or movement or mastery over goals or oppositions.
I'm sensing a lot of weather patterns are going to be moving through next winter. You know, it seemed like, well, at least from our stance in where we are in Michigan, we got spared the brunt of a lot of stuff that people below the state were getting, or people maybe in the Upper Peninsula were getting. We seem to be very lucky this year, and other places not so much so. And what I think I'm sensing here is the same for next winter. I think there's going to be a lot of activity throughout the country, you know, storm systems moving rapidly through.
I'm seeing this also in a sense of status quo too, a status quo handling of situations, and that I'm feeling that this also talks to the idea that we still aren't engaging the idea that we need to move beyond existing energy usage patterns, like maybe we're just too beholden to oil, fossil fuels, and we need to move kind of beyond that to get a new picture there. So I want to pull a card just because of that. You don't see that?
Well, I think that's just a little too political for me, but because I'm
guess.
thinking in terms of just the weather pattern. I mean, obviously it relates to some of that, but nothing is going to change by next winter in that regard. It is what it is.
Yeah, I guess you're right then, maybe.
But go ahead. I want to see what you got.
Six of Cups, upright.
It's interesting because cups again are water. So I almost feel this is, you know, I'm not getting anything really negative about the winter, but I will say there will be patterns of behavior of weather. Some of it might be more on the wet side. I think we're going to have a pretty wet winter overall, and that systems are going to just keep moving one after the other.
Well, maybe with this card, because it sort of is based on maybe a little bit of nostalgia in a way too, that maybe this card, like I said, status quo, just sort of moving ahead. Maybe this clarifies that in a way to me, because maybe it also says that maybe our perception has changed and that we're not really feeling that it is much of a problem, because maybe efforts throughout the year have led us to believe that we do have a handle on it. The hope thing.
It could be.
The hope and change thing.
You know, what's really interesting to me is that the Chariot is a card of movement. And even though this is a nostalgia card, this interpretation of it shows a girl on a swing. You know, so there's that movement in the air. So I think, you know, when I was looking at that, that's why I was getting the impression about these systems just moving through. And I don't see anything really super negative about them. Like, you know, maybe it'll just be kind of a status quo sort of winter. You know, some places always get socked more than others, and that's just going to be kind of a more normal run of things. Nothing really serious.
So-
Other than, wait, I just thought of something else. I'm going to ask you this question. Could this possible also relate to transportation issues in the winter? Like some of the weather might disrupt transportation.
Well, that doesn't look ill-favored,
No.
but it might
Okay.
just be indicating that maybe, I said status quo, maybe transportation systems become more status quo because of the resource thing that I alluded to earlier,
Okay.
i.e. that it's a better use of resources to try to work on public transportation issues for a changing climate and weather environment. Kind of like, you know, like when people were younger and they all took the trolley car or the bus.
Okay. Do you want to recap?
I was going to say it's time to recap. So,
It is.
starting first with the spring, we see perhaps potentially some signs that it's mostly going to be good things happening, and that maybe we feel that there is just some sort of brightness or crispness to the climate or the weather itself. Like maybe spring clears out a lot of the crap of the past year or season.
Yeah, I sense a lot of clear skies and sunny days. I mean, I really feel the spring is going to be fairly calm. There's always something. There's going to be tornadoes. There is going to be some weather. But I really think overall it's not going to be a very bad spring.
Now, in the summer, the Knight of Cups sort of indicates possibility of some adverse water conditions, and we queried whether that was storms or tornadoes or possibly even hurricanes. And I put a slight political or somehow non-weather slant onto that, that the
Yeah.
Seven of Swords might indicate the sense of dwindling or not, resources needing to be found or rediscovered, FEMA, whatever, to help out, redistributed to help
Well,
with that.
I just put the two together as this being a sign that there is some turbulence. You know, there's definitely some turbulent storm activity. And because swords are air, you know, I look at them as air, that, you know, that could indicate a kind of active early hurricane season for, you know, the U.S.
So then moving into the fall, we pulled the Ten of Coins reversed, and I felt that maybe that indicated damage because of weather or climate that could lead to situations that are more human situations, homelessness. You had a sort of different slant on that.
I did, but I definitely saw what you were saying, because to me, you know, this doesn't necessarily indicate a negative climate thing. I thought potentially an earthquake here with the, you know, with the Ten of Pentacles reversed, that it was an earth thing. But looking at this here together, I sensed that this was what you talked about here, that maybe, you know, because there's some damage from hurricanes or whatever in the summer, that there was going to be some issues that needed to be worked on in the fall related to that. Either people felt they weren't getting compensated quick enough or be helped quick enough. There was misdirection. There was misappropriation of resources, not enough resources, or fair distribution. I felt that, and that there wasn't necessarily going to be a negative weather pattern per se in the fall, but it was a carryover from what happened in the summer.
So
and
then
in the
going
winter.
to next winter, we see the Chariot, and I think we kind of concluded that maybe this had more to do with transportation issues as affected by weather and climate, and that maybe we would have to see some amount of rethinking those ideas too, because maybe weather and climate is going to really make travel, public travel especially, more of an issue. I also talked a little bit about, fuels, fossil fuels, and maybe reliance on those, and whether or not status quo thinking was going to be impacted at all in that. And then we pulled this one too, which was.
Well, these are so positive. It's so hard for
they
me
are positive
to
in a way. You're right.
say much negative about the winter other than I really felt, excuse me, I really felt that weather patterns were going to be kind of quick. There was going to be a lot of movement, and there was going to be fast movement of weather patterns, but that they were going to be pretty status quo for the winter, a typical winter. I touched on the fact that maybe transportation would be affected. You know how everybody travels at Thanksgiving or Christmas time, and how storm patterns often disrupt the flow of transportation. I kind of feel like that could be an issue, but since they're upright, maybe this is indicating to me that everything's going to flow smoothly. Maybe I need to rethink this. So I'm thinking the weather patterns in the winter and the spring are the best of the year. Actually the fall and the spring are the best of the year. The winter might have a little bit of upheaval, come and go, a typical winter, I feel. And the fall, we're just going to be dealing with how to allocate resources for some problems experienced in the summer due to possibly wind and water.
And it's always likely or possible that maybe we might want to revisit even just this particular reading.
Sure.
Maybe as we move in or through some of those seasons. So we may refer back to this again. Who knows?
We'll see what happens. I am a little concerned. The spring was very positive, and I know for a fact, in recent years, we've been having a lot of flooding places during the spring. So I'll be curious to see how this turns out this spring, because it's looking very positive.
So that's what we have.
That wraps it up for the weather in the U.S., our predictions for 2020.
So watch soon for the final one, which will be about threats and or opportunities for USA in 2020.
Absolutely. So that's going to wrap it up for us today, and we'll see you for our final one soon.
Take care.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.